Okay, I think I can probably get started. My name is Mitchell Dodds, and I'm the Communications and Development Coordinator at Arts Etobicoke. And like a lot of our staff, I'm also a practicing artist. I went to the University of Guelph for my to study studio art. I also did 3D animation at Seneca College, and arts administration at Humber College, and through an internship with Humber College is how I got started working at Arts Etobicoke, spring of 2019. At school my focus was mainly on printmaking, but lately I've also been doing a lot of painting because, well, since graduating, I just don't have the studio space or the resources to be able to do printmaking anymore. So sometimes I go to Open Studio at 401 Richmond. They have a full suite of all the like litho presses, etching presses, and silkscreen facilities. But my main interest is in etching, because you get these really nice fine lines, and I'll show you some of those. So this is an etching I did at Open Studio. There's another one. Actually, all these are from Open Studio. This one's a photo etching. So I'm going to show you, just like really quickly talk about how an etching works, because people ask me this a lot. They're printed on plates. So here's a copper plate. This is that octopus I just showed you. And what you do is you sand it down really fine, so it's like got a mirror finish, so it's really, really shiny. And then you coat it with a very thin layer of what's called hard ground. It's like a black waxy substance. And then you have this tool here. It's an etching tool. So you scratch out the areas, you expose the areas of the plate that you want to hold ink. And then it will, so those areas are exposed, and then you place it actually into a bath of acid, and the acid eats into the plate and like cuts it up. So it like causes these crevices that are going to hold ink later. Then you lay it on the press bed flat, you get your paper which has been soaking, and you place it on top and you cover it with blankets, and then it goes through the press, and there's a huge drum that's got lots and lots of pressure that as it goes through, the paper soaks up all the ink where it's been held in these little grooves here, and you get these you get this kind of effect, these nice fine lines. And then sometimes I also like to go in and just play with it with watercolors to give it, still a fun color. Sorry. So those are the etchings. But like I said, space is at a premium. I'll show you the whole studio. It's really, really tiny. Not much more than a closet. I can probably get the whole space in frame. So yeah, not nearly enough room to be doing printmaking in here. So which is why I have switched over to do more painting. These two behind me. Actually, I'll walk you through the studio a little bit more than that. So over here I've got my easel. I normally wouldn't have them stacked like this, but I'm trying to display some more works. Then behind there I've got like a bunch of papers and rulers and my painting clothes. big old bucket of gesso for priming. My desk, which is actually relatively clean right now. And my nice window where I get lots of natural light. And I've got a beautiful view of the dumpsters behind the Annex Hotel. This is a MIDI controller. Like I said, I'm mainly a drummer, but in quarantine, I've been trying to teach myself piano a bit, and it's going okay. Here's my bookshelf. These are some art supplies. I've got spray paints in here, which I can't really use right now because obviously I don't have much ventilation here, and it's getting too cold to do outside. And my acrylic paints. I'm using acrylic now instead of oil because they're cheaper. They dry faster, so I can build up layers a lot easier. And also they're just easier to clean up, I find. We've got some magazines, some more art supplies, watercolors, and gouache. Down here I've got like some larger brushes than what's over there, and some canvas boards. And here I have my books. I've got a bunch of art, like how-to, and like art theory books, as well as some comics, which comics play a pretty big role in like my process. I'm influenced a lot by them, so I'll get into that a bit later. Then like up here I've just got fiction and literature, and that's pretty much about it. It's not a huge space. Oh, this is another etching I did at Open Studio. This one's actually a photo etching, so it's on it's a similar process, but you do you add a layer of film to the plate. It's like a photosensitive layer, so that you put it on a light box and it'll develop like a photo. And I think we have a visitor here. You want to join us? This is Kafka. And she's gonna hang out, I guess. So I'll talk about my paintings a bit. These ones I did at a residency in Halliburton a couple summers ago, but I developed them from an idea I had in school about comic books. What I did was I took a copy of, a PDF of Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman, and then I went through panel by panel, and I created these sort of they're like they're narrative explorations of the like the format of a comic book, but they have no. Every panel is distilled to its main color, like the dominant color in the panel, or whichever character is talking, or just sort of the main action, what's happening. So for instance, I think I saw it back here. On this particular page, this red, this is the first time we meet Lois Lane, and she's wearing a red dress, and here she's talking to Clark Kent for the first time, so I condensed those to the red of her dress. And so this was just sort of a way to look at narrative in a different way, without relying on characters or dialogue or actions. It's just sort of colors flowing into each other. So it's more like feelings going into one another than a conventional story. So that was my thinking process when I started to work on these ones. I wanted to explore that a bit further, so what I did was I used masking tape to mask out like a sort of stencil, which is where you see these white lines in the paper. I made a stencil, and then I just, once it was all masked off, I painted over it just using like explosive gestural strokes to get these sort of like storm-like, really abstract expressionist kind of feel. And then I peeled the tape away so that there was these nice crisp lines, and it became sort of like a narrative again, but of like these little pieces of paintings that move one to the next, to sort of be read as a sequence. And as I was doing this, I was peeling the tape away and just kind of like sticking it on the wall to the side. And as I was doing this, I started to realize that I was actually a lot more interested in what the tape was doing than what was on the paper. So I started to reintroduce the tape into the painting at these right angles, so that it kind of still sticks with that kind of grid-like quality. But now it reads less of as a comic book, and it feels more like a map, like we're supposed to travel through it. They don't really have any focal point. You can kind of enter into them from wherever and then just sort of meander around. And I have a few more of these. So those ones are finished. I'm very shaky. So these two are from the same series. This was sort of inspired by fireworks, I guess. These ones, maybe I'll put them on the floor. These ones, the palette, like the color palette, is kind of inspired by Spider-Man. At least it was when I started painting it. I was kind of like looking at Into the Spider-Verse, like the Miles Morales character. I was going off of his costume and kind of like letting that inform at least the initial palette, and then it kind of developed from there. I kind of go into these with like an idea of how I want the color palette to start, and then I just kind of have to react with what actually happens on the paint, on the paper rather. And then I have a few more. Yeah, these ones, excuse me, Kafka. These ones, they normally live at my mom's condo, but she let me borrow them for the tour. And these were also inspired, the palette was inspired by a comic called Sandman. Not the Neil Gaiman one. It was a Marvel comic, I think. And the main character's name is Wesley Dodds, which is my name, or my last name. And he puts his enemies to sleep with like a chemical agent. Anyway, his costume, the colors inspired me to, but really it has nothing to do with that anymore, I guess. So, I wanted to show you a bit more about this process. Excuse me. Yeah, I want to show you a bit more about how this process works by doing like a little demo. Actually, Abby, could you give me a hand with this? Thank you. So like I've done like a couple of like half-finished ones here. Just showing you like my step-by-step process so that you can steal it if you want to. I know I like stealing from other artists. So this is the first step here. It's kind of like Art Etobicoke, where I've done human steps for you. So you do like, you mask it out with the tape, and then you prime it. So I don't know if you can see very well, but this is taped, but it's all primed. Can you get kind of a, yeah. And the next step is to do this kind of action painting on top of it. And I like to build up as many layers as I can. And as I'm painting it, I kind of try to keep it like balanced so that it's kind of cohesive. And then I'll let it dry, and then I'll come back to it and try to add more paint, and then it's ruined. And then I have to like kind of keep fighting with it until it gets to a place where it's feels cohesive and balanced enough that I can start to see what's underneath. So this doesn't always work, but it's really satisfying when it does. And you peel the tape away, and you get those nice crisp whites. Okay, I think I ripped through some tape. All right, let's try from here. Whoa. Okay, come up from here. And that one's good. Which one's underneath? Uh-oh, I might have biffed this. Let's try... And then it's sort of an exercise in remembering which ones are on top of which, so you've got to kind of figure out which to peel away first. Yikes, ripping that. Oh, so you think that got too wet because it's starting to peel away the paper. So this might be a practice one. Oh well, it happens. I actually did like a huge one recently, and then as I was peeling away the tape, that same thing happened, except much worse, and you can see the paper's like peeling here. But then I figured, okay, well, I've got all these little rectangles, so I cut them all out, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them just yet. I might do like a collage, or these could turn into like I might paint or draw figures on top of them, or I could also do like etchings on top of them. That might look cool. Yeah. So maybe I can start looking at questions now. Oh yeah, Sandman is DC, not Marvel. Thank you. Do I use different widths of tape? How do I keep them straight? I mainly use this, I guess it's a standard masking tape, which is just over 1 inch wide. And I try to keep them as straight as possible, just by meticulously measuring with the ruler, but it doesn't always, I mean, it's going to bend at least slightly, so it's tricky, but you can kind of fudge it when you're reintroducing the tape later to kind of hide your mistakes. Do you take commissions from favorite comics? Yeah, if you want to hit me up for a commission, then I think I've pinned my Instagram. You can DM me, and we can talk about doing commissions. Okay. All right, that looks like that's all the questions right now. Oh wait, what? How many prints do you usually make from one board? So this time I'm working a little bit smaller than I would normally. So I've got 4 here. Yeah, I usually like to try to have like 3 to 5 on the go at once, so I can have like more like a series. So like these ones. Whoops. There we go. Oh, these ones down here I did all at the same time. Because they kind of all, the color palettes and the gestures sort of like are cohesive and kind of, they work together as a series, and they look kind of nice all on the wall lined up next to each other. Let's see if there's more questions. Do I need special equipment to protect yourself from... maybe that's talking about printmaking when you're using the acid bath. And yes, you would wear a mask, a special respirator that we wear normally now. I think that's all the questions. So I guess I can also show you this series that I'm working on. These are just studies so far, and it's very early, so I'm not too sure how I'm going to be talking about these yet. But so these are studies for paintings of Alexandra Park, which is a park at Bathurst and Dundas just south of my place. And these tent cities have emerged because people are being forced out of their homes because of, well, it's been happening for a while, but it's been definitely exacerbated by the pandemic, with rents are skyrocketing and wages are stagnant, and now there's huge unemployment. So these are sort of about, well, I don't know. Really, I guess what I want to say is that housing is, it's a human right, really. And I kind of see these as we're failing to take care of our most vulnerable. And actually, yeah, I don't. I think it might be a little too soon to be talking about these. But that's sort of maybe a darker note to end on. So I'll show you this here. This is my ketchup mustard fight painting. Not all of my color palettes are inspired by comic books. This one was just me thinking about kids fighting each other with ketchup and mustard at a food fight. So I'll take one last look, see if there's any more questions. Do you coat the paintings after you retape? Yes, I usually use like a varnish or it's like a varnish spray just to seal them. How long have you been painting? Probably since high school, I guess. I mean, I've been drawing forever and ever, but I guess I got more seriously into painting in high school. And then, like I said, I didn't do too much painting at school. I focused mainly on printmaking, and then recently got back into painting since I graduated. Does music influence your art in any way? Yes, definitely. I love painting to music. I like listening to jazz, like Dizzy Gillespie. I also really like listening to EDM sometimes. I find that like when I'm listening to music, it lets me like gives the painting a lot more movement and a lot more energy. It's not really dancing, but it's like reacting to a music as you're making art. So you get like I find I get like lots more expressive, and like I get my body a lot more into it. And like I can throwing the paint and like being really like energetic with it. Especially if I'm listening to something like Rez, it's like really heavy. Does your mood affect your art? Yeah. I mean, I do struggle with depression a bit, and when art can be a really good way of coping with that, but then there are other times where it's sort of like the last thing you want to do is to make art when you're feeling down. Which is why music helps kind of like push you through that that initial like barrier, I guess. Any more questions? Okay, if that's everything, then I think I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you very much to Arts Etobicoke for having me. Be sure to check in again next week. We'll have Philip Cote doing his tour of his studio. He's an excellent Indigenous muralist, and he's one of the lead artists on our Augmented Reality in the Village of Islington project. So definitely check him out. That's going to be a really interesting tour, and I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, thank you guys so much, and stay safe. Bye.